On a recent trip, Rita and I toured the Natchez City Cemetery. It was established in 1822 on the bluffs above the Mississippi River. There's several hundred acres here, and there's several different types and kinds of people there. When I say types, I mean there's Jews, there's Catholics, there's generals, there's priests. There's a combination of several different types. Some of the graves are pretty special and have a little bit of a story behind them. I will post the comments from a CD that we bought while we rode through the grounds. Uh, and I'll put some identification on some of these graves as we go through.
Which is why the Natchez Cemetery has a separate burial ground for faithful Catholics. At the corner, turn right at Plot 2 on Woodlands Drive and continue right under the Spanish moss-laden crepe myrtles and cedar trees. Round the next corner on your right, and you'll be beneath a majestic oak tree known as the Lone Sentinel.
After making the curve, let's pause just at the side of the road and walk up the hill beneath this magnificent canopy. Under the nearby magnolia tree, note the grave of John Lee, a Chinese gambler and poker player who folded his final hand in 1962. In its early days, Natchez was well known for its riverboat gambling, and Lee, well, I suppose he was just carrying on the tradition.
Engraved on his headstone are a royal flush and dice with the lucky roll 7 and 11. Ironically, Lee's date of death is inscribed 7/11. Lee is buried next to his brother who took a bullet for him in a gambling argument some 33 years earlier. Mark the small white headstone of Louise the Unfortunate. Beside the headstone is the well-known Spice Rosebush. This is a story that is dear to my heart. I met Louise just as she was on her deathbed, and I knew very little about her past. Let's speak to Louise and let her tell her own story.
I look back now and wonder how it all came to be. I ventured to Natchez for love, full of hope, but I was left alone. Though this was a wealthy town with plenty of opportunity, I found none. Natchez under the hill was home to gamblers, racetracks, and houses of ill repute. I made my life there as a lady of the night. Overcome by sadness, I succumbed to an illness which Dr. L.P. Blackburn called disorganization of the lungs. This was not the life I'd imagined. Dr. Stratton comforted me as I died, then recommended to the other ladies that they find a more suitable occupation.
Home to a thriving Jewish population, many merchants sold goods delivered on the river. One of those merchants from Natchez under the hill lost his young daughter to a Union gunfire. Little Rosalie Beekman became Natchez's only civilian victim of the war between the states. Rosalie, tell us about that day.
My sister and I were playing together near my papa's store under the hill by the river. It was a sunny day until I saw a dark shadow move across the sun. It was a Union gunboat. I was terribly frightened by the big guns and all the soldiers. They came near our store and demanded ice from the ice house. The Natchez soldiers didn't want to give them any, so they started firing shots. Then the guns on the boat started going off, and everyone under the hill started running up Silver Street toward town. My papa and my sister were ahead of me when I fell down. "Come, Rosalie," he called. I cried back, "I can't, Papa. I'm killed."
Poor Rosalie was wounded in the hip and died the following day. She was only 7 years old.
Look across the lawn to your right. You'll see in the distance the Lone Sentinel, a majestic oak tree that has stood here for centuries. In 1980, the tree survived a massive lightning strike, but afterwards, half the tree had to be removed. Some say it revealed the outline of a Confederate soldier, complete with his gun over his shoulder.
Take a look. Can you see him? Some people do. He's there standing guard over the soldier's lot.
Marker 13. Frightened of the dark.
The gate to the Washington Ford lot bears a symbol of descending stairs. Enter here and look down into the grave of Florence Irene Ford, who died at the age of 10 from yellow fever. As a child, poor Florence was frightened both of the dark and of bad weather, so her family built steps down to her grave and a glass window to let the light in.
Her dear mother would descend the steps and sit here with Florence during stormy weather. The glass window has since been bricked over to prevent vandalism of Florence's grave. Today, a watchful little angel sits on the wall, keeping a loving eye over Florence's resting place.
Marker 14. Rock on.
Here you'll see the top of Rufus Case's grave. Enclosed in a 3-tiered mausoleum, he faces his Louisiana home, where he spent many hours in his favorite rocking chair. Rufus wanted to make sure he would be comfortable in the afterlife. So before his death, he built this mausoleum so he could be buried in his chair. Sadly, his young daughter, Laura Narcissa, died before him in 1857 at the age of 7 and was buried here. Mr. Case followed her just 1 year later.
Turning Angel.
Ahead, the turning angel awaits visitors to the cemetery.
Oh, yes, in my honor. I was constructed in 1908 as a memorial to 5 young female employees tragically killed in a huge explosion inside the Natchez Drug Company on Main Street. Notice as we proceed toward the gates, more markers of fallen Confederates and unknown soldiers. Oh, I do wish we had time for all the stories we've heard over the years.
Yes, I've probably spent more time in this cemetery than any one person, except perhaps the men who dug the graves. But we've enjoyed our visit wherever the road of life may take you. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee, and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee, and give thee peace. Amen.